The watermen care a lot about the resource because that's their livelihood. If they have an issue of harvest or quota or an environmental issue, and then it moves up to the Maryland Watermen's Association. As far as the environmental side goes, we need to have those restrictions to ensure a sustainable fishery. So it's important to keep an eye on the resource and manage it properly. I am Steve Lay. Being a part-time or full-time waterman all my life, it's just kind of in my blood, as probably every waterman will tell you. Up here, we fish in the wintertime, catch a few eels in the spring, crab in the summer, catch a few eels in the fall. There are no true big eel buyers in Maryland. There's only 2 or 3 really on the East Coast, but they're pretty receptive to coming and getting eels. A few years back, there was a real big demand in Asia for eels, and price was high. A lot of people were eeling. Today, that market is not there like it used to be, but there's more people using eels for fishing bait. Bait eels are used here in Maryland when rockfish season comes in. We still have somewhat of a restaurant market for the big eels. They're smoked a lot now, or used maybe in sushi, but restaurant eels are processed elsewhere. Eels can be harvested in a couple different ways, but primarily in Maryland they're harvested in pots. They can be baited with a number of things. You could use some fish, you can use dead crab, which I use occasionally when razor clams, which is the primary bait, isn't real accessible to me. You kind of just have to go by instinct when you start. Where did you catch some last year at this time? Look at water temperature. Up here in the northern bay, we have to watch for the flow from the Conowingo Dam. After you've kind of selected an area, typically I look for grass beds, but this early I'm only going to be putting the pots where grass beds would occur later on in the spring and summer. Water I like to catch eels in is only 3 to 5 feet deep, and sometimes I even have to make sure it's high tide when I go to check them, because right now the eel that's worth the most money is the bigger one, and from my eeling experience I found the bigger ones this time of year are in the shallow water. I am the chairman of the Tidal Fish Advisory Commission. I'm also on the board of directors of the Maryland Watermen's Association, and these outside groups of watermen meeting with the Department of Natural Resources on a regular basis keeps everybody in touch with what's happening on the bay and what needs to happen as far as management of the species. Watermen always say the most endangered species on the Chesapeake Bay is the waterman. You need something to do. You can't just do one thing. You got to be able to do 3 or 4 things. You can't just be a crabber or a fisherman or an oysterman. It just doesn't work anymore. The resource is not there. The prices aren't there. The restrictions are there. But everybody plugs along because they love it and believe in what they're doing, enjoy it, and can make a living at it.